Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a coin that might look like just a simple penny, but has got collectors talking, the 1969 1-cent coin from the United States, the one with the D mint mark. Many people have asked, could this penny be worth thousands, or even the magic number of $75,000? So we're going to walk through its story, the design, the minting, what errors exist, what the real values are, and how you might tell if you've got something special. The language is going to be clear and straightforward so everyone can follow along. Let's begin with some background. The 1-cent coin, commonly called the penny, has been part of U.S. everyday money for well over a century. In 1909 the U.S. Mint introduced a new design for the penny, putting Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front, or obverse, to mark the centennial of his birth. That design has been used ever since in many variations. For much of the 20th century, the back, or reverse, of the penny showed the Lincoln Memorial. That is the design relevant for our 1969 penny. In the year 1969 the U.S. Mint produced pennies at 3 different mint facilities. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without any mint mark. The Denver Mint added a small D under the date. The San Francisco Mint used an S mark. For the 1969 D penny, that is the one with the D mint mark, the production was quite large. About 4,2,832,200 coins were struck at Denver that year. So right away you can see, with over 4 billion made, the 1969 D is very common in terms of mintage. In other words, just because you have a 1969 D does not automatically mean it's extremely rare. Because so many were made, the typical value of a regular 1969 D penny in routine circulated condition is just about its face value or a modest multiple of that. For example, one source lists the 1969 D in average condition as being worth from about 25 cents up to a few dollars depending on condition. In mint state, meaning uncirculated, condition and with desirable color and strike it can be worth a bit more, but not tens of thousands in most cases. One coin value site lists a 1969 D in MS65 condition, that's a high grade, red color as around $18.18. Another lists in typical uncirculated condition just above $1 for a baseline. So the baseline is modest. Now let's talk about what does make certain pennies from 1969 worth big money. The key factors are errors or varieties, mistakes or unusual features in the minting process that make a coin different from the standard strike. For example, double dies, missing mint mark, missing initials, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, etc. Those become interesting to collectors and can command much higher values because they are rarer. The most famous of the 1969 pennies is the 1969 yes double die obverse. This error has very strong doubling on the obverse, front, in the date, the Liberty, inscription and, in God we trust. That coin is extremely rare, only dozens are known, and in high grade it has sold for tens of thousands of dollars, even over 100,000 in some documented cases. So when you see online claims like, this penny is worth $75,000, or more, they are almost always referring to the 1969 yes double die variety, not the regular 1969 D. That's important to keep in mind. For the 1969 D variety there are some known error types that might increase value above the typical range. For example, some 1969 D pennies have missing initials, the FG initials of the reverse designer, or what some collectors call floating roof on the reverse, weak lines on the Lincoln Memorial's roof, or clipped planchets or off-center strikes. But those errors are much less dramatic and much less rare than the major double die in the S-Mint version. According to listings, that 1969 D with missing FG initials might sell for a few $100s or a bit more if uncirculated and visually appealing, but the bulk of 1969 D pennies, even uncirculated, are still valued in the few dollars to perhaps low hundreds range, depending on grade. So the idea of a common 1969 D being worth $75,000 would be inaccurate unless it has a documented extremely rare error, certification, superb grade, etc. Let's dig a little deeper into the errors you might find on a 1969 D and what to watch for. Firstly, double die obverse. This is when the die used to strike the coins was hubbed, impressed, twice in slightly misaligned positions, so the coin shows a ghost or doubling of letters or numbers. On the 1969 D there are mentions of double die obverse, but the strong, collectible version is firmly associated with the 1969 yes. So if you find a 1969 D that you think has doubling, you need to compare it to documented examples and make sure it is the correct variety. Another error is missing FG, the reverse designer's initials, for Frank Gasparo, sometimes are very faint or absent on some coins. Some collect these as varieties. Off-center strikes. If the coin blank was not perfectly aligned when struck, part of the design may be cut off or shifted. The more extreme the off-center, the more value, though condition and other factors matter. Clipped planchets. When the blank was not properly cut out of the metal sheet, you may see a coin with a missing crescent area. Also die cracks or cuds. These happen when the die used to strike breaks or cracks and leaves raised lines or missing parts on the coin. When you combine an error with uncirculated condition and strong, red, color, for copper coins, original red color is preferred rather than brown, you get the best chance of higher value. And if that coin is certified by a recognized grading service, such as Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, then collectors will trust the variety and grade, and that allows higher prices at auction. Let's talk value more concretely. A standard circulated 1969 D penny might be worth its face value or a little more, maybe a few cents or dollars if the condition is nice. In mint state, uncirculated, condition with good color and strike, maybe up to a few tens of dollars or a few hundred in rare clean cases. One resource states a 1969 D in MS65 RD as $18.18. Another resource lists typical value in uncirculated as 25 cents up to about $18, depending on grade. Also a site says for that coin in circulated condition it ranges from about 10 cents to $2 in many cases. So the realistic range for a regular 1969 D is modest. Now when someone says $75,000, they are likely referencing the 1969 yes double die obverse, or one of the ultra-rare error variants in perfect condition. For example, the 1969 yes double die has had documented sales of well over $100,000 for high-grade examples. So it's possible, but for the S mint variety. The D mint version would need an extremely rare variety and a perfect grade to approach similar values. So if you have a 1969 D penny and are wondering if it might be a treasure, here's what you should do. First, look at the date and mint mark. If it says 1969 D, with D under the date, you have the Denver version. Next, examine the coin carefully under good lighting or a magnifier. Look for doubling on the letters Liberty, the motto, In God We Trust, and the date. If you don't see doubling, it's unlikely the major double die type. Then flip it over and look at the reverse. Check if the initials, FG, appear near the memorial. Check for missing or faint letters. Check the top of the memorial for floating roof effect. Check for clipped edges or off-center strike. Then check the condition. Is the coin worn, scratched, discolored? Does it retain a bright, red, color, for copper, or is it mostly brown? The more original color and less wear, the better. If you think you may indeed have an error variety and the coin is in excellent condition, consider submitting it to a grading service for authentication. And check auction results. What have similar coins actually sold for? Because a listing or asking price is not the same as a real sale. Always compare to real documented sales. One caution, there is a lot of misinformation out there. Many videos or social media posts will say, check your 1969 D penny, it could be worth $75,000, without giving the full context. Many people think D equals Denver, maybe it's rare because of mint mark, but the most valuable version is S equals San Francisco, and specifically the double die. Some coins are marketed as Floating Roof 1969 D or Missing FG 1969 D with big claims, but while they may be interesting, they are not proven to reach the same values as the major varieties unless certified and in top grade. On Reddit, for example, collectors discuss how the 1969 D missing FG may be interesting but not worth anything unless in absolute brilliant uncirculated condition. And there are plenty of coins promoted as errors that in fact are just normal wear or post-mint damage. So being cautious and seeking expert advice is wise. Why did so many pennies get struck in 1969 and why do error varieties exist? Well, the minting process involves many steps: making hubs, making dies, cutting blanks, planchets, striking. If anything in that chain goes slightly off, a die mishubbed, a planchet miscut, a strike misaligned, you may get an error. In 1969 the US Mint used new master hubs for Lincoln cents, according to some sources, which means the dies were fresh and some of the design details changed slightly compared to earlier years. So the appearance of the 1969 cent is distinct. With so many coins made, common pieces are everywhere, but the errors survive only in small numbers. Some errors are removed as defective or melted, some end up in circulation, and only a few survive in great condition decades later. So what are the take-home points? If you find a 1969 D penny, it's most likely common and worth maybe a few dollars if in very good condition, and closer to face value in circulated. If you find one with a strong, documented error variety and excellent condition, may be worth significantly more, but you will need grading and proof. If you find a 1969 penny with S mint mark and C dramatic doubling on the obverse, you might be looking at one of the most collectible modern pennies, and those have sold for tens of thousands or more. The figure $75,000 is within the realm of possibility, but only for the very rare error variety in superb condition, and mostly for the S mint. So if someone says 1969 D1 penny is worth $75,000, you should ask, which error variety? Has it been certified? What grade? I'll wrap up with a final thought. Even though the odds are that your 1969 D penny is just a regular coin, the fact that you're looking at it closely is a win. Coin collecting is fun, it gets you looking at small details, you learn about history and minting, and sometimes you might find something special. Who knows, maybe you'll discover an error or a variety that someone overlooked. At the very least you'll hold a little piece of Americana in your hand, minted in the year 1969, the space-age year, with lots of history behind it. So take a look in your change, check your jars, find any 1969 pennies, especially ones that look uncirculated and bright, and see if you spot anything odd. If you think you do, take a high-resolution photo, compare to documented examples online, and if promising, consider getting it certified. And always verify with reliable sources. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, consider subscribing for more coin hunting content, and leave a comment if you found a 1969 penny or any other interesting coin. Share your story. Until next time, happy coin hunting and keep your eyes peeled for hidden treasures in your everyday change.